I keep myself closed off and we just talk to each other over the wall. And we call that a relationship.
Yeah.
But you can't really hold me accountable. I can't really, get in life with you and tell you the truth about things because I can't even see you because we've got these little fake shields up.
Yeah.
So I think that people avoid community like that because it helps me stay where I am. It doesn't challenge me to grow. It doesn't challenge me to change at all.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Salt Tea Podcast, where we talk about being a salt, one drink some tea. Season 4. We have the lovely Mr. Early Jackson over here.
I love that you said the lovely. I'll take that.
You know what I'm saying?
I haven't been called lovely in a minute. Thank you.
You're welcome. But I'll say this early. The one thing I get from you, and I think the one thing that I love about you when you get on stage and when you live out your life is you exuberate love, right? Anybody that comes to Naos, it doesn't matter who they are. Your first mindset is to love on them, right?
Wow, yeah.
And so I think that's one of the reasons I got that word is just with you. It's just like anytime a person comes into the door, it's just you're just trying to love on them. You know what I'm saying? And so there's one thing I noticed, but yeah, guys, we start a new season, and it's been an honor for me to have Early here. Excited for the conversations we're gonna have. Excited for this new season of where this podcast is going. And all that. But today, Early, can you please explain to people who you are, where you come from, what set you represent? You know what I'm saying? And just give a little introduction for yourself.
Sure. What's going on, everybody? Early Jackson. Wow, where I'm from. I'm from Philly. My wife and I have been married for 13 and a half years. We actually started and launched in ministry together. We both became certified coaches. We both have had the opportunity to write, to do some real cool stuff and travel and things like that. So my biggest thing is I like to call myself a hope dealer.
Okay.
I love to walk into situations that seem dark, bleak, and without, potential, and just watch what God does through us, because we're all carriers of hope.
Yeah.
So if I had to sum myself up, I'm a hope dealer.
Yes, sir. I like that. I like that a lot. One of the reasons I like it is because it just rhymes with coke dealer. But I'm just joking. That's a good
gang.
word. But hold up, you said Philly. Are you excited about the Super Bowl this weekend?
Beyond excited. Now, I won't go into how my team and all that stuff, but because I'm from Philly, I'm going to rep Philly whenever they're in the big game. So
I'm curious on what's going to happen this weekend. I have a lot of friends who are from Philly, and they're actually traveling to Philly to go watch it with their family up there.
Oh, boy. Well, you know what they're doing in Philly right now? They're preparing for Sunday's game, but they're putting Crisco on the light poles in downtown Philly.
So people don't climb them?
Exactly. Because Philly is notorious for them climbing up and riding them down.
Yeah.
Only in Philly, though.
Philly's an interesting place. The videos I've seen of Philly, it's a very interesting place. But I would love. I've driven by it, and I've also been there for like a few hours one time, but never really gave it a proper visit. But one day I want to go see the 76ers because I love basketball.
Holla at me when you're going up there, man. Because with your creative juices, there's something about the vibe in Philly.
Yeah.
It's I can't even describe it.
Okay.
I vibe down here, but when I go home for a week or something, it's a whole different vibe. So.
Okay, definitely. Then we got to plan a visit. I want to go up there just to see, because I've also just been filming a lot more. I want to get more ideas and stuff. So I would love to do that. But talking about the topic for this podcast or today's episode, I wanted to tackle the importance of community. And where my heart is I wanted us to talk about community and what community means to you and why community is important. Mm-hmm. So early, let's talk about that.
When I was looking at some of the information that you sent over, it was a bittersweet kind of examination, because typically we tend to be passionate about things that we've had some negative impact from. So for me, community was always a challenge. Whether it was because my family was isolated or because of poverty, growing up in the projects, you've got people around you, but there isn't this strong sense of community because everybody's scrapping to survive, right? And then growing up, joining the military, being traveling, and it just made having kind of surface relationships real easy. And what we do sometimes is we exchange the quality of community for the surface relationships that just feed our emotions.
Okay.
And what I've learned is that, to me, community is the opportunity to be myself, to be whole, and to be loved and empowered in that environment.
I want to ask that question real quick, because you said growing up, surface level relationships, that's what sometimes we strive towards. Why do you think that is? Because to me, when I hear that, the one thing I've realized about community on my end, and the one thing that to me is hopeless without Christ, is family, right? What I've seen is people who don't have a good family setting really struggle with community, right? And do you think that plays a part into it, or like, what do you think about that?
Everything comes down to the environment that we grow up in. We are put in this crazy thing called a family, right?
Yeah.
And you know the song, the old R&B cut, "This is how we do it. This is how we do."
Yeah.
That's culture. That's community. It's a certain way of doing what you do with these groups of people. So I think people struggle with it. Or let me come in from this end. When we're in these environments, we develop something called attachment styles.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So there's a secure attachment style. There's a anxious, and then there is also an avoidance. All of that stems from the way we saw love, the way we saw discipline, the way we saw acceptance in a community, in our family community. So I think that when we grow up, we learn to not put ourselves out there, because that makes me vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I keep myself closed off, and we just talk to each other over the wall, and we call that a relationship.
Yeah.
But you can't really hold me accountable. I can't really, get in life with you and tell you the truth about things, because I can't even see you, because we've got these little fake shields up.
Yeah.
So I think that people avoid community like that because it helps me stay where I am. It doesn't challenge me to grow. It doesn't challenge me to change at all.
The funny thing, I just thought about this. I don't know if I've heard it before, but it's funny how you say some people struggle with being fake in relationships, when the whole thing about relationship is the first thing, part of the word is real, right? We're not even, and I feel like because to me, what I've learned is you can only love in life the way you receive love sometimes, right? So how can I love you when I haven't even received love myself in the right way? And I think what I've learned is, to me, there's two things. One of the first and foremost things is Christ, right? If somebody, the way I live life, if somebody doesn't know Christ, I don't expect anything from them. And then what I mean by that is, you don't have a reset. You don't have somebody who showed you unconditional love. Well, we talk about this in the world, and I'm like, sure. But who do we know who actually laid down their life except Christ, right? And then after that, parents. Because what I've learned is why the scripture is so important, honor your mother and father, is, and when you're an infant, when you're a kid, there's so much vulnerability that you face in the world. And if you're not loved correctly in that stage, it affects so many things in life.
It affects your worldview. You frame life out of that experience.
That one thing. And so whenever you don't have a healthy family style and all this type of stuff, I've realized that also struggles the way you view God, right? Because that's the first way you learn love is through your parents. One of the first ways most people learn love is through their parents, or it's supposed to be their parents, right? Biblically, if in a utopia, if everything is working well, everything is right, it's supposed to be the parents. And I've realized, because there's such a lack of that in our current generation, when we see the scripture, God will never leave nor forsake you. Do people believe it? You know what I'm saying? People say it, but do we live a lifestyle that believes it? And I had a realization about this a few months ago. My dad passed away in 2021, right?
Sorry.
Thank you. And not many people know about it, because I just don't talk about it much. But he passed away in 2021. And then when we had his memorial service this past November, it just ringed to me, and I was praying about, God, what do I do? Right? Where am I? Like, what do I say? Where am I at in life? And the only thing that kept ringing to me is, I'm here. Right? That was the only words I was hearing. I'm here. And then when I got on stage to speak at his memorial, I was like, the reason I believe that, the reason I can believe God is here, was because my dad showed me he was there. Right? Because I had a person who was there all the time. When I hear God say, I will never leave nor forsake you, I'm like, I believe it.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Because I saw it in real life. And I was thinking, how important is it for us to live out what God has for us? because that is the testimony. The world shall know you are my children by the love we show them.
Right.
So think about when we love other people, are we randomly abandoning other people? And so when we talk about our God not abandoning them, do they believe that when we as his children be like, nah, peace out?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think part of it too is the framework.
Yeah.
The pattern that we think love is.
Yeah.
So if you come from a family that yells, that their idea of discipline is a spanking, a whooping, or whatever you want to call it, then chances are when we talk about the chastening or the discipline of the Lord, that's what comes to your mind.
Yeah.
So the beautiful thing about the church community, right, is that when we can all come together and we lay down our expectations of what relationships are for the truth of what they really are.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Because we come into this family, and you can look at it through the life of the disciples.
Yeah.
Peter from Luke chapter 4 is a different Peter than Acts 3 Peter.
Okay.
And I think that the reason that's so different is because he went through this process of community.
Okay. Yeah.
And I love the word process because that means a series of operations that produce a finished product. Yeah. So community, you're never done with community. It's always this constant evolution of growth, change, challenge, growth, change, challenge.
Those are amazing things that you're saying earlier, and my mind is just keep going back and forth. But I want to think about certain things of what you're saying, because growth, challenge, and what was the last thing? Change. I want to talk about this topic in community. What age group is community?
What age group is community?
Because the reason I ask that question is, in my mind, when I think about community, I see all age groups, right? And I've been very fortunate and blessed to have an amazing community around me of my family and their family, friends, and all this stuff. But there's infants and there's like grandparents, right? And what I usually see when we talk about communities in the world, it's the same age group.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, the reason this structure matters to me with the infants and the grandparents is, I think we talked about Naos once. It's like, what stage of life are you at? Right.
Yeah.
And usually if it's a friend trying to correct me and a friend, we're going to fight back and forth because it's a friend, right? Same age group, same peer, we're going to say something. But if my mom and dad or uncle or grandparents say something,
someone you revere.
Yeah. When there's reverence, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of who they are, they say anything. It's not even talking back. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
It's not even a moment of, I'm going to say something. No, I'm going to shut up. Even if I don't think it's right, I'm going to shut up and see if they're right.
Yeah.
And so do you think there's a need of that in the community, in the world, in the church nowadays?
Absolutely. I think the beauty of community is it should overlap, right?
Yeah.
The danger is when we lock ourselves, because communities kind of, they overlap in these different ways. But when we lock ourselves into one size of a community, we create this echo chamber. So there is no room for wisdom. There is no room for vibrance and freshness. So my mentor used to say, you need people from every sphere in your life. So you need people that you're looking up to, and you need people that you can learn to who aren't quite where you are. And community, I mean, I used to work at a daycare. Infants have community. You know, 2-year-olds, they walk in, they got their whole set, they got their posse, they got community. And community is just the people that you can be you around. And sometimes that rotates. And what I love about, we spoke about Naos, is that there is no specific community. You know, you'll find likeness and sameness around, but the community itself is open and welcoming. So, and to me, that is a picture of what the book of Acts was. Acts doesn't identify age groups. It says they were all together and they all grew and they gave and they worshiped together. We don't know the age groups.
We don't. You're right. One thing that really like stuck out to me about what you just said is a place where you can really be you. When you said that, it like really reined in. Like sometimes I think about, do you think community suffers a lot with the increase of a victim mentality that we face in the world nowadays?
I'm going to come at it from a different way.
Okay.
I don't think it's an increase of a victim mentality. I think that victims are now getting the voice to speak out.
Okay.
Because one of the things, and I just did a webinar on secondary trauma and being trauma informed. And one of the things that I kept saying in this webinar was, people deserve the dignity to walk out their traumas in their way.
Okay.
Because if we're not careful, we'll come in and like I'm from the hood. So gun violence, I grew up around it. My cousin had guns. Like, I'm not proud of it, but I saw it. So somebody else could say, oh my God, I saw somebody with a gun and I'm really traumatized. It would be easy for me to go, they ain't shoot at you. You all right. And what are we doing? We're comparing traumas, which makes yours trivialized. And I'll go there. The problem that we've had, or the challenge that we've had in church, is that people come in and we tell them, you don't have any problems. All you need is Jesus. When I find that in the Gospels, everybody that Jesus met, they had the space to share with him what their trauma was. He never rebuked them for sharing their traumas. So in an effort to create a safe space, I think it's important we have to be aware of how we say, all right, they're just trying to be a victim. Sometimes people cry out for help in the only way that they feel able. Are there people that are faking? Yeah. But for the most part, I think that we're living in a time now where people have gotten the strength or the clearance or the space to finally say, you know what, I'm uncomfortable with this. This hurt me. And there's no statute of limitations on traumas. I'm still processing some of the things that come up. I'm like, wow, I was 19 when that happened. But it'll come back to me and I'll have to deal with it.
One of my close friends, he's like 20 some years old. He's a young man. He recently went through something really traumatic. But the one thing I told him, I was just like, the only thing that matters, when I was praying about it, I was just like, because what he went through was, he was part of the shooting at Walmart.
Oh, over in Chester. Yeah.
And when I say he was part of it, he was in the room and he lived. Praise the Lord, because I can't even imagine what he saw. But the one thing I told him, I was just like, and I'm grateful that we have this hope of Christ, because the way I look at the world, I see it as hopeless without Christ. And I mean that with a genuine heart. I don't see, because I also, like, while I'm creative, I think very logically about things. I think about the why stuff happened and the math behind it, the science behind it, and all this stuff. And then when I see the world, I'm just like, bro, this like, I look around like, y'all don't understand how bad it is. Like, there's no hope, but the only hope is Christ. And I told my friend, I was just like, bro, the only thing that matters is you're alive and God's got you, right? This is the only testimony we have, right? Because there's other families that don't have the same testimony, right? So yes, it's traumatic. You know what I'm saying? And I talk to him often. I ask him how he's doing often, because at the end of the day, I care about him. And I care about making sure that he knows, yes, it's hard, right? But the only viewpoint, you couldn't be drowning like Peter, but Christ is there to pick you up.
Right.
And that's the only thing. And so I want to ask you, and I think this will be the final question for this podcast. We're talking about community. We're talking about all this. How do you think a person can grow in community? And what I mean by that is if a person is in need of community, how should they go about finding it and trying to be involved and growing in it?
I think that we've got to take the expectation that my first time out, I'm going to find my community. Right. And it's not a indictment on that community if it's not your people. I could, I like, going to different restaurants and stuff, but I go to one and I'm like, this isn't really my thing. That's fine. That means that's not your community. But the challenge I have is that when people hit a roadblock, they tend to revert back, because I'm good for going in a cave. If I'm not careful, I will isolate myself. Because I process things a certain way. So that first, if I get a resistance, I'm out. I can sit at home by myself and not deal with this. But is that the best for you? Because I think that the whole beauty of community is I'm putting myself out there, and it could not work. But that doesn't mean I won't go out there, because I know that ultimately I need to thrive in a community. So I think that people they cultivate it by figuring out what it looks like, not being mad about the ones that didn't gel, and just keep moving until you get to the place where you connect with people. Because when you walk in a room, there's a vibe. You're like, oh, this is my tribe right here. And it was the saying a few years ago, your vibe will attract your tribe. So that's what I think. I think
I think what you said is amazing earlier, and I completely agree with it. I believe people need to understand. I believe when you walk with humility, you understand what can I give, not receive, right? So even with communities, when you go to a place, it's at the same. It's Bishop T. Dex talks about it once where I don't. It starts with a C. I don't. Is it reciprocity or something? Reciprocity.
Yeah.
Where when you're going to a community, as much as you're receiving, are you giving also, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you're hitting on the head of the nail where it's like you don't vibe with everybody, and you won't. We're not called to,
right?
And it's because of to me the nicest way is everybody has different interests,
right?
I love music, I love film. Most people might not, you know what I'm saying? And I realize it's the same way with music taste. I've come to learn everybody has different music tastes. No music you can't say it's bad because that's just what you like.
That's your preference. That's your perspective, right?
Yeah.
And I just jumped when you said that about community. In Christianity, we act like we are one big community.
Yeah.
But the Bible says they were all together and had all things in common.
Yeah.
Common isn't sameness though.
Yeah.
Me and you have a lot in common, and the things we don't major on those.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You wear corduroy. What if I don't like corduroy?
Yeah. Yeah.
I do, but what if I did? That doesn't mean that what my preference is should change your perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
And in community, what's so beautiful about it is there is this reciprocity, but there's also this built-in mechanism that when you can't give anything, the community wraps around you and loves you, right? Until you're able to. And when you're a healthy part of a community, that you let that heal you, and then you turn around and you try to help somebody else with that. So
I completely agree. And I think you just hit everything on the head earlier. And again, while we end this, I just want to thank you. And I agree in the sense of in community, it's all about keep trying. Yep. Like you said, keep trying. It's the one thing I was thinking about. A foot is not the same thing as a hand. They look at the brain, and they will look at each other like, we don't operate the same way. We completely do different things. So it's about the willingness of, while we love the whole body, right? You need to go and communicate and cultivate a relationship with the people you know who are the same place as you are and what God calls you to be. So again, Early, I want to thank you so much for this time to come on the podcast for this episode where we're talking about community. Any last words while we end this episode?
Folks, build community. It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'll end with that quote because I love basketball. He said, if you want to go fast, go with yourself. If you want to go far, go with your team. And I believe that if you want to go fast, go ahead. You got it. Go ahead. Yeah. But if you really want to get there safely and further, find community and go with them.
That's what's up, Early. I don't even need to say anything else after that. So thank you guys for checking out this episode. Be on the lookout for more stuff. All of Early's Instagram details, everything, or social media is going to be in the description below. And thank you guys so much for checking out the Salty Podcast, where we talk about being a salt while drinking some tea.
Cheers.